Hi everyone. Well, I guess this is a kind of review of the Fuji X-T3, but in typical fashion, I've waited until the camera's successor is released, until I've found something to say about it. I might be later than most, but there is something to be said for using a camera for a good while to get a real appreciation of it. Later I'll share a few thoughts about the X-T4, and I've put links to the 3 and 4 and a couple of alternatives at the top of the description below. I'm going to share with you a selection of pictures that I've taken with the camera and hope they will give you an idea of the types of situations I've felt happy using the X-T3 in. The short answer to that, I guess, is nearly everywhere. I promise that I am allergic to hyperbole and have considered the following statement very carefully before speaking it here. The Fujifilm X-T3 is one of my favourite cameras of all time. There is no question about it. For many years my everyday carry-around camera was a Fuji X100 of one model or another, but over the past couple of years I have been less set on using such a compact camera. I am now more than happy with the X-T3 around my neck, both travelling and on the streets of my hometown. Probably the biggest reason for this change is that I have enjoyed trying out new lenses. For a start, I wouldn't have been able to make all of the lens reviews for this channel if I had taken my X100 everywhere I went. The funny thing is, this isn't even the smallest choice for an interchangeable Fuji camera. I could have chosen to use my X-E3 as my everyday camera, but instead I've been perfectly happy with the X-T3. Despite not being the smallest camera, and certainly not pocketable, one of the reasons I love the X-T3 is for reasons of simplicity and minimalism. I don't see minimalism as being only about everything being as small as possible or having as little as possible, especially if that means losing out on features that you do care about and would put to good use. In this spirit, I think having a single but more feature-rich camera is the more simple choice. Next, the autofocus is the best I've known for a Fuji X camera, and it's exciting to know that it's not even the best Fuji can do these days, with big improvements being made on newer cameras that I've never even touched. However, with the X-T3, the autofocus performance reached a new level that made me feel extremely comfortable. Not just wandering around cities on holiday, but using it for a lot of professional work, particularly photographing events. Another thing to love about the autofocus is that I feel it's the X-T3 that has brought some of Fuji's older lenses back to life, or even to life for the first time. For me, that was especially the 35mm f1.4 and the 18mm f2. Never lightning fast before, combined with the newer cameras, they have a spring in their step that's missing on even the previous generation. Next is a reason to love the camera that I perhaps should have started with. It's the dials, the wonderful dials. In my mind, these make it one of the prettiest and most tactile cameras I've used. Of course, compared with most X-series cameras, this has its dedicated ISO dial, which I generally prefer to the more fiddly, lifty-uppy dial on the Pro or X100 series. Yes, you just have to lift those dials up to turn them, but on the X-T3, you just don't even have to do that. While I mostly use my Nikon D750 for weddings, I've certainly flirted with using the Fuji. Being lighter and smaller than my Nikons, I love the idea of making it my main wedding camera, but it hasn't worked out that way just yet. Although while it hasn't taken over from my Nikons, it has played a great supporting role at many weddings. I love that it's a more discreet camera than my chunky, clunky DSLR, and makes me feel less intrusive when photographing the day, especially during the quieter moments, such as in the morning. You may know that I'm not one for getting too technical in my reviews, and camera sensors seem like the height of the techie side of things. However, in reality, the tech and soul of photography does meet, so I'll say that I have always been impressed by the look of this Fuji sensor. I particularly remember looking at some black and white wedding shots and being surprised and pleased by the organic graininess. I can't explain it too well and try not to overthink it, but I do simply love the look of this camera. Another reason to love the X-T3 is its excellent video capabilities. I love the idea of not having to grade footage after shooting it, and instead simply punching in a certain film simulation and maybe some personalized adjustments. It makes the process so much easier and more enjoyable, and I think the footage looks beautiful. The camera famously shoots in 4K at up to 60 frames a second, but does still have some weaknesses. So I will pause my love letter for a moment for a brief interlude of video-focused criticisms. Lacking a stabilized sensor is certainly the biggest flaw for video. For a time I even tried using a Canon stabilized prime lens and Fringer adapter to overcome this. It worked very well, but I sold both as it was quite an investment just to get me some stabilization. And being able to record video to both card slots would be fantastic, especially for paranoid or conscientious wedding filmmakers who want to do everything they can to back up their precious films. Speaking of weddings, anyone filming a wedding ceremony will tell you that having your camera automatically stop filming after 30 minutes is a soul-destroying feature of many cameras today. Trebling the frustration is the fact that several smaller and cheaper Sony and Panasonic cameras don't have this limit. I'll stop there in my criticisms. The X-T3 is not my perfect video camera, but the video it does do is superb. As I listed some of the potential flaws, you might have been politely shouting at the screen, but Chris, they fixed a lot of those things with the X-T4. And it is true, they seem to have fixed a lot of those things, but not, inexplicably, the video record limit. Which brings me to one particular feature I love about the X-T3 and that they supposedly fixed in the new model, and that's the screen. I love the sturdy flip-out screen and how you can easily shoot at waist level and on the same axis as the lens and basically pretend to be Vivian Mayer in shop windows whenever you want. In my own experience, this type of screen feels the most natural for shooting stills and for video. Although who knows, maybe if the angry nanny was alive today, she'd be an angry YouTube vlogger with a flippy out screen. Thanks for watching everyone. Links to the cameras are below, as well as links to my Instagram and Patreon pages. As always, if you have any questions about the camera or about life in general, please say hi in the comments. Thanks again everyone. See you soon.